Hi there, Paolo with Synthmania. Tonight we're going to look at 20 must-have accessories for the recording studio, for the home recording studio. And during the numbering sequences, we're going to play some Oompa brass from a Roland Jupiter 8 synthesizer. Why the Oompa brass? Because I like Oompa brass. And this is my channel. And on my channel, I can do what I want. First item on the list is audio cables. The main audio cable that you're gonna need in the home recording studio is the 1/4" TS for tip and sleeve cable. And this is a mono cable, unbalanced, and it's got the tip and the ring. These are used all the time also for guitars and basses, but we use them with synthesizers and keyboards of all kinds. If the keyboard is stereo, then you would need 2 of these cables, or you could get this type of cable here. This type of cable has stereo jacks on both ends, and typically you would have the white channel on the left channel and the red on the right channel. Sometimes you have black and red, sometimes white and red, but typically the red is always on the right channel. Also, if you're a guitarist, you could have something dedicated like this, which is a kind of vintage looking type of cable with a braided tweed style look. And this is the difference with a TRS cable. Typically headphones jacks come like this. It's balanced, and you can use it for stereo signals, and it has the tip, a ring, and a sleeve. So yeah, it's called a TRS cable. Compare with the TS cables, you can see this one only has tip and sleeve, and this one has tip, ring, and sleeve. Another type of cable that you definitely need in the home recording studio is the XLR cable. These are your typical microphone cables, balanced with 3 pins, and you have a male and a female side, and these are used in professional applications with microphones, with patch bays, all kinds of situation. Again, you're gonna need a lot of these guys. Another type of cable that you find in home recording studios is RCA cable, and these were typically used in hi-fi equipment for years and years and years, but you can still find them in audio situation. Sometimes you might need to go from RCA to 1/4", so this cable in particular here has RCA on one end, stereo, and 1/4" on the other end. Another type of cable that you might need is this one. This one goes from TRS stereo to a couple of TS on the other end, and you can use this with compressors and other devices. Another type of combination cable, this one goes from 2 TRS cables on one side to 2 male XLR cables on the other side. These are also useful in some situations, and of course there is a variation where you also have a female XLR on the other side. Another type of cable you might find is this one here. It's a little 1/8" TRS cable. These are used a lot with headphones and computer outputs. This particular cable on the other end goes to RCA stereo. Another type of cable that you will find often, especially in keyboard players' studios, is the patch cord. These are shorter cables, mono, unbalanced, TS, that are used a lot with modular synthesizers and patch bays. These are more examples of patch cables of all lengths, different lengths. And if you plan to use a Eurorack system, these are the types of patch cords, 1/8 inch, that are useful for that purpose. Extenders. These are useful to have if you need to reach somewhere and you can't get to it. In this example, we have a female 1/8 inch on this end and TRS 1/4 inch on the other one. And then you have this kind of fusilli type cable that extends. This is another type of extender, sometimes also called gender benders. These go from female RCA to male RCA, and you can have these type of cables with all type of connectors, of course. Another type of cables that you might find in music and pro audio especially, these are called bantam cables or TT cables for tiny telephone, and they've been around a long time. They're typically used in professional recording studios, and they also come in all types of lengths. But it's the same idea, where these are used to create patch points in densely populated patch bays. And these are called the multi-core cables, so called because inside one cable you have a core consisting of many other cables. In this example, this one has 8 RCA connectors on one end and 8 XLR female connector on the other end. And of course, very common are the ones that go from XLR to XLR, 8 on each side. But again, you can spec any type of design that you want. Here is another example of multi-core cables. I forgot to say also, these are called snakes quite often. And this particular type has a multi-pin connector on one side, this ADAC or ALCO. And on the other side, you have a bunch of XLR males and females. So again, these are used in professional application, typically with mixing consoles and pitch bays, and they can cram a lot of inputs and outputs in a small connector. And you will use these types of audio cables to connect guitar pedals together really close to each other. These are cool to have. And I'm sure I'm missing something. I'm sure I'm missing other cables, but I think it's enough about audio cables. Let's move to the next topic. MIDI cables are an absolute necessity, especially if you are a keyboard player like me. These are 5 pins, and they are used to connect MIDI equipped keyboards and other devices together. And of course they come in different lengths and colors, and DIN cables. Another cable that you're gonna need in the studio is USB, of course. USB is going through some revisions lately, so it's gonna change, but pretty much we all know this type of connectors. But quite often you are gonna need in the studio this type of cable, which goes from this type of USB to this type of USB. This is typically used in more modern keyboards to load up update the firmware, load patches, save patches, and so forth. Must-have cable. Another cable that you might need in the studio is a HDMI cable. Not only to go to your computer devices, but also audio interfaces sometimes, and other. It depends how you have your setup in the studio. And also you might find a MIDI cable and coax cables, and or RJ45 type Cat5 cables like this. And you might even need some optical cables like these. Power cables. You're going to want a lot of power cables in the studio. And typically you're gonna find two types that you need, two types. The most common is this one, is a typical computer IEC power cord, which has a 3-prong on one end and on the other one. It's very common. But some older keyboards might have the 2-prong connector on one end. So it's advisable to have a few of these cables as well. Power adapters. These are always useful to have, and you're definitely going to collect a few if you start a home recording studio. This one in particular is great for multiple guitar because it has different connectors that go to the pedals. But over the years, as you can see, I collected a lot of them, all types and all types of voltages, and I typically mark them with the voltage on top of them. So 12 volt here, this is a 6 volt, lots of 9 volts, and so forth. And these are different type of adapters that I kind of collected over the years. Sometimes you need to lift the ground, so these are just useful to have. Also, you want to have some power strips and also power cord extenders, always useful. Another item that you should definitely have in the home studio is Velcro and Twisty ties. These are must-have to be able to manage all those cables. You want to have lots of Velcro and lots of Twisty ties. Sharpies and artist tape, also must have in the studio to be able to label cables, connections, patch bay points, inputs, outputs, and all kinds of other things. You want to have several of these guys. And also, if you have a mixer, a console, they even make dedicated console tape, which doesn't really stick too much to, it's easy to remove after each session and come with its own marker as well. Rack screws. You're definitely going to need a lot of rack screws because a lot of music equipment comes in rack format, and it's just something that it's always useful to have around to mount devices on your racks. Portable recorders. These are really cool machines that sound great, and they're inexpensive. You can find them for less than $100. And this in particular is a Tascam, but there are so many brands that make these guys. And if you don't have one of these guys, you can also use simply an iPhone, and sometimes you can use your audio recorder from the phone, or you can connect a microphone to the iPhone, and you can record good quality audio with an app. A lavalier mic. These are inexpensive lavalier mics with a long cable, and they're so useful to have, not only to record yourself, but also because they can get in really tight spots, and just fun to collect samples and sound effects. And this one in particular comes with, this is a Audio-Technica. It's very inexpensive, and also comes with a little adapter that connects to the iPhone if you want to record onto your smartphone, I should say. Guitar picks. These are always fun to have when you have your friends over, or you want to play in strums. You want to have different types, and sizes and weights and type, like jazz picks and light picks, hard picks, felt picks, and so forth. Headphones. You want to have at least a couple of sets of headphones, just because they're so useful in the studio and also when the rest of the family sleeps. And ideally you would have some headphones for mixing and for tracking and for just listening to music. And also if you DJ, they're specialized DJ headphones. Sustain pedals and volume pedals, and these are especially useful if you're a keyboard player like me. These are just standard accessories that make keyboard playing a lot more fun and engaging. Tuner. And you can see here, I never opened this tuner. This is a Korg Sledgehammer Pro tuner. And the reason I never opened it is because now I simply use my iPhone with a tuner application or any smartphone, and there you go. And if you travel around, you might want to get a few power converters, just like these. I often go to Europe, and I also sometimes buy keyboards from Europe and other musical equipment. And with these types of adapters, it's easy to convert from a Euro style plug to North American style plug. There are different kinds for sale, and it's something you might want to consider if you travel. And if you're like me, I use a lot of obsolete older gear, and so I use the old media that comes with it. So you might want to have DVRs and DVDs and CDs and zip drives, zip disks, and old floppies, even older floppies, and even cassette tapes. All kinds of different media. You never know when it's going to come in useful. Label maker. These are always useful in the studio if you have a lot of connections to label, and it just it looks a lot neater, and just so useful to have. And don't forget to get the tapes for it. Audio adapters. You're definitely gonna need these guys, and these are the ones I collected over the years. I have a lot more, but sometimes you need to go from female to female, or from one jack to splitter, RCA to 1/4 inch, sometimes even XLR to 1/4 inch, and so forth. These are always useful to have. Batteries. You're always going to need batteries, and typically the ones you need the most for musical instruments, portable musical instruments, are AA, AAA, and of course 9-volt brick type for guitar effects and so forth. And you could also invest in a rechargeable battery charger. Cleaning products and dusters. For some reason, the home studio always ends up attracting dust, so I always keep these types of products handy so I can dust off things and clean keyboards and speakers and so forth. And this one is cool to have, this deoxit If you have some scratchy pots, you can scratch a little bit of this guy and it will go away. I'm sure I missed a lot of accessories that are here in the studio, but I'll probably do another list sometime in the future. For now, I want to thank you for watching, and I will leave you with a playlist of all the Oompa performances. See you at the next video.